Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Today I'd like to talk to you about why we can't find Easter eggs this year. We're living in painful and complicated times. Life is getting more and more complicated, not just in terms of the way we live, but even in terms of understanding how we should live. The government instructions change almost daily, to the extent that even law enforcement don't always understand what the government means. Case in point, one police officer walks into a mum and pop shop this week and says, "I'm sorry, you shouldn't be selling Easter eggs. Now we're only allowed to be buying and selling essential items." So my shaila for you today is, are Easter eggs essential? At the beginning of this week's parasha, the Torah says, "And Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, Zot Torat Ha'olah." This is the Torah, the law of the burnt offering. Why is the word Torah used? Our sages tell us. It's so that even when the temple is no longer standing, we should be engaged in the Torah, in the learning of the Torah about these sacrifices. When we do so, it's as if we brought the sacrifices. Let me read to you the words of the Midrash. The Holy One, blessed be He, says, "Since you are engaged in these matters, I consider it as if you were sacrificing them." Rabbi Huna says, "The exiles will only be gathered in the merit of the learning of Mishnah." The exiles will only be gathered in the merit of the learning of Mishnah. What is the Mishnah? When Moshe ascended Mount Sinai, he received both a written Torah and an oral Torah. The oral Torah is the explanation of the written Torah. Now, the written Torah was later canonized into what we call the Tanakh, or Bible. The oral Torah was passed down from one generation to the next verbally, and eventually redacted by Rabbi Judah the Prince, and called the Mishnah. Mishnah means learning or review, but it also contains a code. Mishnah shares the same letters as neshama, meaning soul. This week we began a new initiative at HGSS, a Tuesday night Mishnah class. While the class is open to everyone, its primary purpose is for those who have lost loved ones and would ordinarily be attending minyan 3 times a day and reciting Kaddish, or for those with a yortzeit. In lieu of daily physical gatherings, the chief rabbis encouraged the study of Mishnah in memory of the soul. It's always been customary to learn Mishnah as a merit for the elevation of the neshama, which is why we've always done that in shiva houses. Now the truth is, we are still holding thrice daily shul services. Dozens of holy members of the Norrisly family gather virtually to keep the flame of minyan alive in our community. And many mourners recite Kaddish. While it's not the same as saying in the presence of a physical minyan, it's the best option we currently have. Nobody's saying it's ideal, but hey, nothing in life is ideal at the moment. We're all just doing our very best, given the circumstances. But at the same time, we're always on the lookout for ways we could be doing even better. And that's why we've started the weekly Mishnah Shir. But if you can elevate the soul with Mishnah, is Kaddish really necessary? Friends, sometimes the question of what is necessary or unnecessary, essential or non-essential, is a very personal one. For some people, it's just not Easter without the eggs. For others, it's really non-essential. The question of the essentiality of many things in this world is complex. For many who have suffered the loss of a loved one, there is nothing more essential than Kaddish. I know that right now some of you are taking umbrage at what I just said. No, I wasn't saying that reciting Kaddish is like painting chocolate eggs. Although I should point out that Easter eggs are not a newfangled craze. They go back to ancient times and have deep religious significance for many Christians. You can Wikipedia. What I was saying, though, is that we find ourselves in the midst of a terrible crisis, an unprecedented crisis, when Kaddish in the traditional manner is just not possible. That might be true, but different people have different needs. And many mourners feel that nonetheless it must be said on some level, no matter what. It's extremely comforting and meaningful to those mourners, particularly if they have not been given the opportunity for traditional Levaya and Shiva during these impossible times. To them, Kaddish is essential, even during coronavirus. I want to leave you today with two thoughts and ideas. The first is a question for your Shabbat table. What's essential and what's non-essential to you and your family? During times like these, we need to stop and reassess our lives. What are our family values? What do we stand for? What do we live for? What's our family bumper sticker? What are our key priorities and values in life? Sometimes we just assume that our children know what matters to us most. But unless we communicate and articulate those values to them, it might not always be so clear. This Shabbat, let's talk about what's essential in our lives. The second idea is practical. We learned in the Medrash that the exiles will only be gathered in the merit of the learning of Mishnah. I wonder whether the global increase in Mishnah learning that's currently taking place is what the world needs to get us over the finish line. Maybe it's just a few more Mishnahs that we require, and then in the blink of an eye, Hashem will suddenly make this plague disappear and carry us all on eagle's wings home to the promised land. We can all be part of that miracle. You don't need to be bereaved, God forbid, to learn Mishnah. Everyone can learn Mishnah right at home. Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, is a tractate of the Mishnah which is accessible to all. It's customary to learn the tractate on Shabbat afternoon throughout the summer. Ordinarily we would start after Pesach, but we've actually just switched the clocks. And so there's a long Shabbat afternoon ahead of us. How about opening up to page 524 in your green siddur sometime in the afternoon and learning a Mishnah? Each Mishnah in Ethics of the Fathers is a great conversation starter and will aid the discussion around your family values. Let me conclude with a thought from a Mishnah. This week in the Daf Yomi, the daily study of the Talmud, we began the chapter of the Mishnah, Bameh Madlikin, which translates as, with what will you light? It details all the oils and products one may use for Shabbat candles. Those Mishnahs are familiar to many of us as the chapter we recite as part of the Friday night service. This Shabbat, friends, I'm asking you, Bameh Madlikin, with what do you light? We're currently in a situation of darkness for each and every member of the family of humankind. How are you going to light up the darkness? What physical actions and spiritual measures will you take upon yourself to bring light to the world? What are your family values, and which new practices will your family adopt to make this world a brighter place? On behalf of Rabbi Nitbach and myself, Rabbi and Rebbetzin Guten Tag, Chazan Avrami and Rachela, Chair Neil Levinson, the honorary officers and council members, I wish you Shabbat Shalom, and I bless you that you and your loved ones stay healthy and safe. Shabbat Shalom.